A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
In 1958, Meier sent to the 25 European countries about 115, 120 specific predictions. The United States of America will be engaged in 2 wars with Iraq. The second war will be conducted under a president who is the son of a former president. The second war will lead to an unbelievable disaster. The end game is this, and this has been said even before we launched the war in Iraq pertaining to U.S. military policies. Unless the United States withdraws from all military bases and from all wars and stops sticking its nose in everybody else's business around the world, there will be a third world war, which will eliminate 3/4 of the population of the planet. It will devastate the North American continent. We will be among the hardest hit. All of our major cities will be destroyed. We are in for a bad time. And I said, but now America and Israel are talking about attacking Iran. And he said, well, I'll tell you this. If your country attacks Iran, there's an enormous likelihood that Russia and China, which are becoming closer all the time, will attack your country.
The Billy Meier case is quite literally the most documented in history dealing with aerial phenomena. It's been scrutinized to the degree of having a full documentary being done using state-of-the-art, for that time period, equipment to attempt to find it to be a hoax. While many claim the case is a hoax, regardless of the countless pieces of evidence presented to them, nothing can disprove the clips you're about to see, except each person's particular opinion.
There was no Photoshop. There were no home computers. If these had been hoaxes, his designs for these craft are quite interesting.
These official contacts with extraterrestrials, taking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photographs and films and everything else that followed, the skeptics would like us to believe that this man, with no resources, working as a night watchman and on a partial disability pension, with one hand, is not only a master model maker, filmmaker, photographer, digital and special effects person, videographer, metallurgist, electronics genius, sound recording engineer, knowledgeable about topography and map making, geography, ancient history, mining, ores, agriculture, and 30 other disciplines that he's brought to bear in terms of the information of this case. They will credit him with that, but they won't say, hey, the guy's telling the truth. He's the one that's meeting with these people.
Photographs taken of Meier holding a laser beam-type weapon on July 6, 1977. The woman Manara who brought him this weapon, an antique 600-year-old beam-type weapon.
He looks a lot younger here than in the movie.
He was about 40 years old at this time.
And this is like another film of his?
This is shot on the same day. This was actually the second time that a weapon like this was brought to Meier, and they decided to both photograph and film him handling the weapon during this time.
So does anyone else ever touch this weapon, or was Meier the only one?
Well, Meier was the only terrestrial person to handle the weapon. There, Manara was the person who brought it, and another woman named Alina. Also, we'll see her in a little bit. We have some photographs of her. The weapon had some very unusual characteristics.
Like what?
Well, the weapon was said to have a range of 37.2 kilometers, and it had a screen on it that Meier could look into and see up to that distance, as if whatever he was looking at was close at hand. All he had to do was concentrate then on the target, whether it would be a little piece of a tree or another vehicle or whatever, and press the trigger, pull back on the trigger, and that beam would travel as far as necessary to destroy the object in question.
So he could basically steer the weapon with his mind?
Well, this weapon wasn't fully steerable with the mind. It was more that he could focus on whatever he wanted to. He still had to pull the trigger. In their more recent technology, they have weapons that are controlled by the mind, so that only the so-called owner of the weapon can actually activate and use it. It doesn't require the use, then, of a trigger, but rather is mentally controlled by the weapon's owner. We're looking at a film made 30 years ago of a weapon that is, at the time, allegedly 600 years old.
Who's this for?
Well, this is Alina. She's another extraterrestrial who comes from a very, very distant system in space. And she is holding the weapon here. We see not only the weapon, but this gold suit. What I should tell you is that when Wendell Stevens and the investigative team first saw these photographs and films, they thought, number one, that the weapon had to be a toy, which they discovered it wasn't by searching out every toy supplier in Switzerland as well as toy stores and coming up with nothing. Likewise, they searched out through sporting goods stores and clothing manufacturers this type of an outfit, as well as simply looking for a fabric that would behave and appear as the apparent gold foil of Alina's outfit does. They couldn't find that either.
What is this? What's this tree?
Well, this is one of the two trees that Meier shot holes through using this weapon. This appears to be the apple tree, about 10 to 12 inches in diameter. The investigators couldn't even find a drill bit that long. And plus, as they examined the hole here, they found out that not only was it smooth as glass all the way through, but slightly oval in addition to the round entrance and exit. There's no possible way of drilling an oval hole.
What about these pictures?
Well, this is another tree in a forest that Meier had shot a hole through. The investigators had then taken a string, tied it around the trunk, ran it through the hole, and then carried it back all the way into the forest. They found that in a straight line from the entrance point of this hole, everything was singed or burned perfectly all the way through as far as they could walk in the forest. But remarkably, there was no stack bubbling. There was simply clean through, immediate breaks in the branches and twigs where the beam had passed through.
Despite the widespread attention that Meier's images have garnered, many skeptics dismiss his claims as nothing more than hoaxes, while others argue their authenticity. However, the enduring popularity of Meier's 1975 image cannot be denied. It has been featured in countless books, documentaries, and even on the iconic I Want to Believe poster for the hit TV series The X-Files. Much like any UFO photo, the authenticity of Meier's imagery has been long debated for decades. Throughout his life, he made several claims of regular communication with extraterrestrial civilizations. He also presented many photos to prove it. An auction listing for Meier's original images states, from the 1960s to the early 1980s, Meier took 1,476 photos and 34 films, of which about 600 photos and 9 films were of UFOs.
In this film, we can see an object, a toy made in the 1990s, invented by physicists, called a levitron, that exhibits this type of movement as this object in these repeated frames floats above the base. We dissolve here into Meier's UFO as it too is exhibiting that type of hovering, pulsing movement on the magnetic field of the Earth as he was told. Now watch as the object will suddenly dart away in one frame, disappearing from view.
How is that possible?
Meier was told that they have technologies that allow them to move out of phase, out of dimension, within a part of a second. They can not only move out of dimension that quickly, they can also pop back into dimension. When the films were examined at Nippon TV, they discovered that indeed there had been no cutting and that the object not only disappears in one frame, but pops back in one frame just as suddenly as you see here.
So where does it go while it's gone?
Well, that's a good question. As we observe it here disappear one more time, we can wonder just exactly where it goes. I don't have an answer for it.
Mr. Meier, unlike many of the other cases discussed, is still alive. and to this day still claims his story and evidence are true. One can't help but ask the obvious question as to why haven't any social media celebrities or famous podcasters had him on, despite the claims many of them are into disclosing the truth. I leave you now with some of the most interesting evidence of Mr. Meier's case. Earlier in the footage, many of you may not have caught the detail of the ground flash produced by the laser gun when he fired it. Let's review it again very carefully. This magnitude of detail produced on 8mm film is something that simply can't be ignored by any logical person. The next piece of footage is one of Mr. Meier's craft, along with one shot off the coast of South Africa in 2003. The similarities are nothing short of fascinating.